Hey everyone, let's just jump right in, shall we? Today we're bringing you a deep dive explainer on what is honestly a massive, earth-shaking shift in the Philippine educational landscape. We are unpacking the brand new DepEd Order No. 015, series of 2026. This source document represents a total, ground-up overhaul of the classroom assessment, grading system, and awards for the K-12 basic education program. Seriously, if you're a teacher, a parent, or a student, the rules of the game are changing in a big way. So we're going straight to the source material to figure out exactly how this impacts you. For years, educators and policymakers have debated the real accuracy of student grades, constantly asking, is the era of grade inflation finally over? Well, right in the rationale of this DepEd order, the department doesn't pull any punches. They explicitly state that this policy is built to tackle persistent challenges, specifically calling out grade inflation and an over-reliance on transmutation. Basically, they're acknowledging that for a long time, grades were reflecting a mathematical curve rather than actual tangible learning. This new policy is a sweeping attempt to bring transparency, fairness, and true evidence-based assessment right back into the classroom. So here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the new assessment philosophy, then tackle navigating AI in classrooms. After that, we'll cover descriptive grading for early learners, move into numerical grading and weights, and wrap up with the big one, moving to zero-based grading. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the new assessment philosophy. I've got to tell you, I absolutely love this phrase pulled straight from the policy guidelines, detectives of learning. Isn't that great? It brilliantly illustrates the core mindset shift DepEd is pushing for here. Assessment is no longer just about, handing out a pop quiz on a Friday afternoon and logging a number in a spreadsheet. It's a continuous, dynamic process. The goal now is to observe, interpret, and adapt. The teacher is actively investigating what a student knows, and more importantly, what they're struggling with, right in the middle of the learning process. To actually achieve this detective work, the policy formally introduces the SRU formative assessment model to build a constant feedback loop. It's a simple four-step process. First, elicit. The teacher prompts the students to show their understanding. Second, student response. The learner actively engages in answers. Third, recognize. The teacher analyzes that specific response against the learning goal. And finally, use. The teacher uses that new information to immediately adjust their instruction. You don't just sit around and wait for the quarterly exam. You course correct in real time. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the strict boundary the source text draws between formative and summative assessment. Formative assessment, like that ESRU model we just talked about, or quick things like exit tickets, is strictly for monitoring progress. And here is the real kicker, explicitly stated in the order. Formative assessment shall not be used for grade computation. None of it. Its only job is to improve learning. Summative assessment, on the other hand, evaluates learner achievement at defined points like written works, performance tasks, and exams, and these are the only things that will actually determine a student's final grade. Moving right along to Section 2, navigating AI in classrooms. This is a super timely addition to the framework. The policy fully acknowledges that artificial intelligence is here to stay, but it establishes some very clear guardrails by classifying AI use into 3 distinct tiers directly in the text. For sub is prohibited. AI is strictly banned for tasks requiring independent recall or performance, like term exams or supervised in-class writing. Using it there is flat-out academic misconduct. Second is limited. This allows AI for things like polishing grammar or brainstorming ideas, but students have to disclose the exact prompts they used. Finally, we have guided. For older students in key stages 3 and 4, teachers can actually design complex tasks where students use AI for higher order analysis, as long as they can defend their reasoning and show real ownership of the final product. But underpinning all of these tiers are the ethical AI principles. The document heavily stresses authenticity of evidence, meaning outputs absolutely must reflect the learner's own thinking. It also shines a huge spotlight on data privacy. Teachers are strictly forbidden from uploading any personally identifiable learner data to AI platforms, no exceptions. The overarching theme here is pretty clear. AI can be a helpful tool for learning, but it cannot, under any circumstances, be a substitute for the student's own brain. Okay, jumping into Section 3, descriptive grading for early learners. For the youngest learners in Key Stage 1, which is kindergarten through grade 3, the policy mandates a complete shift away from numbers. We are completely throwing numbers out the window. Instead, we have a descriptive grading system. Performance is categorized into qualitative descriptors: advancing, benchmarking, connecting, developing, and emerging. The goal here is developmentally appropriate practice. Rather than trying to rank an 8-year-old against their peers with an arbitrary percentage score, teachers will use these descriptors alongside narrative summaries to accurately describe the child's progress, their strengths, and the areas where they need a bit more support.
Now, I want to highlight a very important clarification drawn directly from the source document. You might be wondering, wait, how does the massive DepEd school system actually track data if there are 0 numbers? Well, the policy states that numerical equivalents for grades 1 to 3 do exist, but only behind the scenes. They are used strictly for system-level reporting and school forms. The order emphatically states that these numeric grades shall never replace the descriptive reporting on the report card giving to parents or guardians. For the families, the focus remains 100% on qualitative growth.
That brings us to Section 4, numerical grading and weights for key stages 2 to 4. For older students in grades 4 to 12, numerical grades remain, but the weighting of those grades is highly intentional now. Take a look at the breakdown for core subjects like English, math, and science. Performance tasks, or PTs, carry the lion's share of the weight at 50%. Term exams are down at 30%, and written works are just 20%. The policy explicitly states that greater emphasis is given to performance tasks because they serve as the absolute best evidence of a learner's understanding, application, and higher-order thinking in authentic contexts. DepEd is heavily prioritizing what a student can actually do, rather than what a student can merely memorize for a test. And honestly, nothing illustrates how far they are willing to take that philosophy quite like this number, 80%. For senior high school students taking the work immersion subject, performance tasks make up a massive 80% of their final grade. Written works are 20%, and there are absolutely 0 exams. I mean, think about it. In a real-world workplace setting, your boss doesn't hand you a multiple-choice test on a Tuesday. They evaluate your actual output and day-to-day performance. The grading system is now directly mirroring that reality. So what does this practically look like? This is the official Learner's Performance Report template, pulled straight from Annex G of the DepEd Order. It's the actual report card format for grades 4 to 12. You have the learning areas, the quarters, and the final grade. But pay attention to the performance descriptors at the bottom. Even with numerical grades in play, the policy requires that those numbers be accompanied by qualitative descriptors, ranging from emerging up to advancing. The idea is that a number like an 85 isn't just a disconnected floating stat anymore. It's a meaningful indicator of actual proficiency. Finally, we reach Section 5, and this is without a doubt the biggest change, moving to zero-based grading. This is arguably the most mathematical and definitely the most debated shift in the entire policy. DepEd knows this is going to be a huge shock to the system, so they are pacing it out carefully. The policy outlines a strict timeline. For the school year 2026-2027, schools will use an adjusted transmutation table as a transition mechanism. It raises the standard slightly, but still offers a bit of a safety net. But mark your calendars because beginning in school year 2027-2028, it is full implementation. The safety net disappears completely, and the system transitions entirely to zero-based grading for grades 4 through 10.
So what exactly is it? Well, under the zero-based grading system, the grade a student earns is the exact grade that goes on the report card. Period. There is no transmutation table, there is no grade conversion, no artificial compression, and no inflation of scores. If your raw weighted percentage is a 78, your final grade is a 78. The minimum passing grade is firmly set at 75. The policy argues this overhaul promotes ultimate transparency and ensures that reported grades are highly reliable indicators of a learner's actual capability.
Let's actually walk through the math real quick because it's pretty straightforward under this new zero-based reality. Step 1, total up the raw scores for all components. Step 2, convert those into percentage scores by dividing by the highest possible score and multiplying by 100. Step 3, compute the weighted scores based on those percentages we looked at earlier, like that 50% for performance tasks. Step 4, add all the weighted scores together to get the initial grade. Now, in the old days, this initial grade was pushed through a magical transmutation table to get a higher number. But now, in the zero-based system, that initial grade literally becomes the final grade. It is direct, uncompromising math. Which leaves us with a really fascinating question to ponder. By entirely stripping away the artificial inflation of transmutation tables, DepEd Order 015 is demanding radical honesty in the classroom. When an 85 actually means you mastered exactly 85% of the material, how does that change the conversation between a parent and a child? Will it foster a truer growth mindset, one based on real, tangible evidence rather than curved expectations? This policy absolutely sets the stage for a much more transparent future in Philippine education.
education, one where grades are earned, clearly understood, and truly reflect the learner's real journey.